Good morning, almost afternoon, and thank you for coming today. We're adjusting up here. A couple of us up here are going to have a word with the organizers about considerations of height. So if you can't see or hear me and Sara, who's also a little on the diminutive side, just kind of wave and let us know. Today's panel is entitled You Set the Scene. 3 faculty-centered approaches to digital publishing. And what unites us all up here is that we were funded in the 2014-15 Mellon Initiative in Scholarly Communication, which was a series of awards. I think there were 13 total to support innovation in digital scholarly publishing, particularly in the area of the Monograph. So Mellon made these awards, and then shortly after commissioned John Maxwell at Simon Fraser University, who heads up the publishing program there, education program, to do an analysis of these awards, because they were broad and eclectic, to say, what do they share? How do they group? Who might want to be talking to each other? I had an early conversation with John as he embarked upon this analysis, and as we were kind of rambling, thinking about the awards, I found myself humming the Sesame Street song. 3 of these things are not like the others. 3 of these things are just not the same. But what really marked us out as different was that they were awards to university libraries rather than university presses. The majority of the awards were made to build capacity at university presses. So in all 3 of these cases, they were awards to university libraries, and they were all focused on understanding and meeting scholarly faculty needs, thinking about what are the scholars wrestling with, where do they need support, how can we understand that, and how might that inform the development of publishing services and platforms. So that's what unites the 3 of us, and we're going to each talk about a little bit about our efforts today. And we'll be speaking in the order in which the awards were made, and which is also the longevity of the projects, which is not very long. We're all still pretty new. The oldest is in 2nd year, and my own at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, just passed its 1st year anniversary and entered its 2nd year. So the 3 of us that will be speaking today are Liz Glass on my right. She's the digital scholarship editor at Brown University Library. I'll be talking about our efforts at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And Sara Sikes on the end here, who's the associate director. Yes, I lost part of her title. I'm sorry. The associate director of Greenhouse Studios at the University of Connecticut Library. So that's us. And we'll each be speaking for about 10 minutes today, and we hope we have a chance to engage in conversation with you as well. I am here on the desktop there. To the left.
Yes. Not used to PCs.
Okay. There's a little slideshow icon on the far right.
Okay. Hi, I'm Liz Glass. As Maria introduced me, I'm the digital scholarship editor at Brown. I have been there for a bit over a year. I began in August of 2015 to work with faculty, administration, and the library staff on the university's new Mellon grant for digital publishing. The title of the grant that was written is on the screen. It's Changing Structures, Changing Cultures, the Role of the University in Scholarly Communication. And Brown's grant is a partnership between the University Library and the Office of the Dean of the Faculty. And Brown's interpretation of this grant aims to tackle the questions of digital publishing from 2 different sides simultaneously. So to begin with some background about Brown University, Brown has a rich tradition of scholarly experimentation with digital technologies. Beginning in the mid-1960s, faculty at Brown have been working in computational linguistics, hypertext, hypermedia, web authoring, visualization, cave writing, which is an experimental form of electronic writing, and text encoding. And in recent years, the Brown University Library has become a hub for this kind of work with the Center for Digital Scholarship, a consortium of library staff members who assist faculty as well as graduate students and undergrads with digital projects, data management, digitization, data visualization, and learning and implementing digital tools for their research. So building upon this foundation of Brown's history, the university received support by the Mellon to fund the creation of ambitious digital projects by Brown faculty members. And the grant looks both at the side of production of digital projects as well as evaluation of digital projects, which I'll speak to in just a second. So we began with an open call for expressions of interest that was circulated by the Dean of the Faculty in 2 departments in the humanities and the humanistic social sciences. And Brown aims over the course of the grant, which for us ends in 2019, to select, develop, and ultimately publish between 5 and 10 digital publications. And to support these efforts, the library has created 2 new positions, my own and the designer for online publications, who will serve as a resource to faculty members in prototyping, designing, and implementing their projects. So in addition to facilitating the creation of new digital publications, the grant also aims to address issues of reception and scholarly validation of digital work. In order to catalyze a conversation on campus, particularly in humanities and social science departments, about the acceptance and validation of digital projects, the library is partnering with the Dean of the Faculty to gather resources and suggest amendments to the university's language about tenure and promotion. Collectively, we've circulated this language to departments that they might consider when updating their individual tenure and promotion standards and criteria. And we've had some individual meetings with various departments on campus. And we have also hosted a series of on-campus talks called New Directions in Scholarly Publishing and the Challenges of Evaluation in order to educate ourselves as well as the rest of the Brown community. In the course of the last 2 years, we've heard from publishers, authors, and digital humanists from across the field. And this year, we are inviting pairs from various digital projects to speak from the scholar's point of view as well as the technologist's point of view to talk about various ways that collaboration works in this new digital age. So to talk a little bit more about Brown's process, I wanted to share a few slides about kind of the steps that we're taking. Work began on the digital publishing initiative in the spring of 2015 when the Dean of the Faculty circulated a call for expressions of interest. The initial call invited proposals for imagined digital publication projects that not only reflected scholarly excellence and the potential for disciplinary impact and well-documented and challenging intellectual questions, but also included innovative uses of digital media and data to reveal or enhance scholarly ideas, arguments, and conclusions. Out of the initial call for proposals, we had conversations with about 20 faculty members from history, Portuguese and Brazilian studies, anthropology, music, political science, and other disciplines. Out of those conversations, we came up with about a dozen proposals that went before a faculty advisory committee for evaluation and selection. Our committee is made up of 6 Brown faculty members who are coming from humanities as well as visual and literary arts. And the proposals are being evaluated on the basis of the scholarly questions and also the potential for innovation. And of course, because we are working on a grant timeline, the readiness of the faculty members and having a substantial amount of work done is, of course, a plus. In the next phase that I'm titling here, collaboration, this is where we currently are with our first 2 pilot projects. this is the phase where faculty members are working closely with myself and other members of the library staff to refine their proposals, develop their projects, to learn digital tools, acquire digital assets, and work with the designer as well to help them imagine what these projects may look like. We're going through, we've begun wireframing the first two projects. It's, very early, but helping them to think through what the possibilities are of the web that wouldn't be available to them in a print publication. One of the central ambitions of Brown's Mellon grant proposal is also to partner with university presses to ultimately publish the digital publications that we're developing with faculty. Brown no longer has a press of its own, and our ambition is not to create some kind of digital imprint through this grant, but rather we aim to kind of incubate projects by our faculty members that can be then acquired and published and peer-reviewed by a university press. And this ties back into the other half of Brown's grant that aims to make digital projects that are acceptable for tenure and promotion, and to kind of interrogate and challenge those divisions. So at the close, the partnership piece of this is developing a working relationship with the university press where, we don't have a set idea of what that relationship will look like. It will depend on the press and upon our authors to a degree. We are interested in working with presses that are, of course, experimenting with digital publications, but also are interested in working with the presses that our faculty members have relationships with, or that represent the highest level of scholarship in their field. So in some cases that may mean working with a press that doesn't necessarily have its own digital imprint. So at the end, what we hope to have is a set of peer-reviewed exemplary digital monographs that have been published and circulated by a university press. To tell you about the exciting parts now, give you a brief overview of our first two projects. One is by Massimo Riva, who is the chair of the Italian Studies Department at Brown. And his text, Italian Shadows, Casanova's Polemiscope, and Other Tales of Imaginary or Forgotten Media, will move through 4 tales of 17th and 18th century visual technologies in order to conceive of an archaeology of virtual reality. Writing about these curious pieces of analog technology from the pre-digital age, which include this moving panorama that you can see on the bottom and a magic lantern show, as you can see on the top. Riva will weave parallels to our contemporary virtual world and its reality-altering power. He's really interested in virtual forms of travel and virtual experiences in a pre-digital era. So alongside the text and a rich selection of images, Riva plans to incorporate original archival documents as well as immersive online experiences that aim to replicate the visual and sensorial experience of these objects for contemporary readers. And the other pilot project is a collaboration between Brown University's Tara Numadal of the History Department and Donna Bilek, who is currently a postdoc at Columbia University. And their project combines the format of the scholarly edition with that of the critical anthology. Their tentatively titled Project Atalanta will bring a multimedia 17th century text to life in digital form. So what we're doing is looking at creating a dynamic enhanced digital edition of Michael Meyer's extraordinary alchemical emblem book, Atalanta Fugens, which combines image, text, and, as you can see somewhat blurrily, fugues for 3 voices in each of the 50 emblems. So we're creating a digital version that will allow readers to translate between original text and English translations, to be able to hear and see visualizations of the music, interact with the images in various ways, and read annotations and further comments about the emblems themselves. And the other half of this project will be an edited volume of new scholarship by Tara and Donna's colleagues working in the history of science, art history, musicology, and other fields that cross over with this very interesting early work. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me get set up here. Apologies, you're experiencing 3 Mac users fussing with, there we go, with the Windows machine. First time in decades. Hi, I'm Maria Bonn. I'm here to talk about an effort at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, called Publishing Without Walls, Understanding the Needs of Scholars in a Contemporary Publishing Environment. So what are we? Well, we're a digital scholarly publishing initiative from the University of Illinois. One of, I think, the things that calls us out is that we are a partnership between 4 parts of the university: the library, the School of Information Sciences, that's my particular piece of it, the Illinois Program for Research in the Humanities, and the Department of African American Studies, and we're working extensively together. So what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to build capacity for digital scholarly publishing, and we hope to create a model for such publishing that we might be able to share beyond our own campus, and that other libraries who are attempting to understand how to serve their scholars can emulate, adopt to their needs. And we are trying to inform it with research. About how the technologies that are out there, including print technologies, align with the needs of scholars and their desires for how to express their work. And in some ways, we're trying to demystify digital publishing by providing services, support that can help scholars to develop robust, durable, functional, attractive representations of their scholarship. Our process, and I was heartened to see Liz's because it's not unlike the one we've developed, is to work with the scholars from conceptualizing the digital representation of their work through to publication. We enter a pretty intensive phase of consultation and incubation with those scholars and help them to choose the representation that we can support and that is the most suited to their needs. And then bring that through to publication, both with our own effort, Publishing Without Walls, and if it meets their needs and if it's a good fit, also passing on to one of our partner presses. We're working formally with the University of Minnesota, Michigan, and Illinois presses. We've had a couple conversations with other people that are interested. So the idea is that there might be a parallel book-like university press publication, a print monograph, and an ebook, or that those presses that are developing their own digital platforms, we might be helping to groom a publication for those digital platforms as well. And we're early in the phases of this piece. I think we have our first project in conversation now with a university press, as well as working toward publication with Publishing Without Walls. We are grouped in, we're grouping our initial efforts around 2 series. One with the Global Midwest, which are projects that come out of the Humanities Without Walls, note the similarity in the name, Humanities Without Walls funding effort, which was supported by the Mellon Foundation, but the other piece of Mellon, not scholarly communications, but higher ed. They gave our Humanities Institute in Illinois a lot of money to dole out into sub-awards to scholars essentially at Big Ten universities who were collaborating on innovative humanities scholarship. And a number of them have digital outcomes planned. And we see ourselves as a place for publishing those. We're also working in a collaboration with our African American Studies Department, who are reaching out to the historically black colleges and universities and trying to encourage humanities scholars there to think more about digital scholarship and innovation in digital publishing. And just to give some examples, these are pulled from the the grant proposals from the Humanities Without Walls scholars who were asked to identify what the outcomes might be of their research. And these are all things that were named. I think of I don't know, I'm trying to remember the number of awards. We're working on 50 at this point. Almost all of them named something that we could construe as a possible digital publication. Just to give an indication of the size of the scope of our projects, these are the institutions we've been in contact with, and these are both the participants in Humanities Without Walls, from the Big Ten Academic Alliance, and also selected historically black colleges and universities. There are more than we've been in touch with yet, but this is an indication of those we've spoken to. So our focus is really on what the scholars are trying to do and to help them realize their objectives. So of course that means they and we have to know what they are. And we begin with the idea that we're in a time where there's a proliferation of publishing choices. Go to Amazon's Create Space and self-publish. Grab Scalar and start building something. Submit to a university press, and so on and so forth. And that there are many choices, and that scholars are trying to figure it out. And so to help them figure it out, as we work with them, we ask them to be clear on their goals, what they might be. Are they trying to reach outside of the boundaries of their discipline? Or they're trying to make the greatest possible impact in their discipline? Are they just trying to get it done? Are they trying to get that line on the CV? Do they want to impress their mothers? What is it that they're trying to do with their publishing? So we asked them to articulate it, and this is also the focus of our research. And I think our research is another piece that sets us apart from the other Mellon-funded scholarly communications initiatives. It's very integral to the work that we're doing, and we're in the thick of it now. We're asking scholars to talk about their publishing experiences and their publishing ambitions. The number of qualitative methods. We've just recently completed a survey and begun analysis. I'll talk about that in a minute. We had about 200 humanities scholars respond to our survey, talking about their publishing experiences. And we've begun to embark upon interviews and focus groups as well. And we were doing a little analysis just Wednesday, and looking at the disciplines that responded. Interestingly to me, heavily tilted toward English. I used to be an English professor myself, so I get to poke fun at us and say, yeah, people don't usually ask us about our work, so we're really excited. But we've heard a lot from English, quite a bit from history, and from a scattering of other disciplines as well. This is just, I won't leave these up here long, just as a scattering of the kinds of questions we're asking. What are you trying to achieve? What professional goals do you have? How would you like to publish? What gets in the way of publishing that way? And what's publishing been like for you in the past? When's it been really good? When's it been troubling? And so these are the kinds of things that we're asking, particularly in the interview settings. So just a little bit about what we've been learning. And we really have just begun the analysis of the survey. And these are the slides I'm nervous about because I went to the plenary this morning. I imagine some of you did too, with those amazingly gorgeous, complicated visualizations. I'm like, visualization? Yeah, Excel does this. But this will give you a little bit of an indication. We asked scholars in our survey to rank their priorities, their reasons for publishing, their top three. And then we weighted that. first priority, first top reason, got 10 points, second 5, third 1. And so what came out pretty clearly is that their top reason for publishing, and not surprisingly, I guess, is to contribute new information to the field. And then to participate in dialogue about their area of study. And also to establish a formal record of their scholarship. You can see our humanities scholars are not a greedy lot, or at least they don't have high expectations. A couple said they published for financial remuneration, but sliver. Couple are trying to change things. More than a couple, 48. A 48 weighted score. Some other things we're learning. We're trying to understand why scholars choose the publishing venues they do when they think about the audience that they're trying to reach, what's important. So these are roughly divided up by percentage. But in most cases, they sort of equally weighed the ability of the publishing venue to reach their target audience and also the reputation of the venue, that these were the two factors that seemed consistently most important. With a close, if they're tied for first, a close second being the ability to effectively represent scholarship. So this was true whether they were trying to reach colleagues in their disciplines or cross-disciplinary peers, the general educated reader. Interestingly to me, colleagues at their institutions, they didn't seem to think too much about how the venue might affect reaching those people. They ranked number 1 in that area, the ability to reach that audience. I guess so their colleagues could find it, but the other things less important. And we also looked at the choice of venue depending upon their publishing goals. So in this case, the top few, to contribute new information to the field, the reputation of the venue, it's getting a little more important, and the ability to effectively represent the scholarship a little more important. But reaching the audience still seems to be the biggest factor in choosing the venue in relationship to their goals. So this is just to give you a flavor of the kind of things we're looking at, and there's a lot more. And we'll be developing that analysis and starting to share it in the coming weeks. And we hope to have, let's say, by the beginning of the new school term, that's always a good time, right? A lot more of this to be able to share. And so I just want to say a little bit about how it all comes together. So what we're doing here, we hope that our research will inform the development of our tools and services, and the goals of our scholars will inform the deployment of those, and that we will also inspire scholars to new possibilities, to greater imagination for the reach and the effect of their work. And, that makes the world a better place. That's our real goal. Okay, thank you, Liz. Not Liz, Sara, I'm sorry. I mixed up my colleagues. First I get your title wrong, then I call you Liz.
Yeah, we're going to talk later. Okay. All right, so I'm going to view, and I'm going to full screen. Okay. So following up on the overviews provided by Liz and Maria of the projects at Brown University and University of Illinois, I'm now going to talk a little bit about the Mellon-funded initiative at the University of Connecticut. We just finished a one-year startup grant, so we're not quite as far along as the other two projects are. I was just brought on to the staff at the UConn Library 6 months ago to participate in a new initiative that we're calling Greenhouse Studios Scholarly Communications Design at UConn. This is a research unit that's situated within the UConn Library, which will employ design thinking methodology to long-form digital scholarship. The newly established mission statement of the studios aims to solve the problems and explore the opportunities of scholarship in the digital age. And as a transdisciplinary collective, Greenhouse Studios reframes the practices, pathways, and products of scholarly communication through collaboration-first approaches to the creation and expression of knowledge. Meaning that we're looking at digital scholarship or scholarship in general in both digital and analog formats. The projects that we aim to produce could include websites, digital repositories, online exhibitions, documentary films, 3D visualizations. But if a project comes to us and through our workflow, through our iterative design process, it becomes apparent that the best product is an analog format, a book or a scholarly article, we will also pursue that outlet. This is a collaborative project between 3 key stakeholders on the UConn campus: the Department of Digital Media and Design, the Homer Babbage Library, which is the UConn Library, which I am a part of, and the Connecticut Humanities Institute. Our steering committee consists of 3 members from each of these key units, so 9 members in all on the steering committee, and there is a smaller working group of 3 members. The composition of that group is Tom Scheinfeld, who is on the Faculty of Digital Media and Design. He's the director of the studio. Clarissa Siglio is also on the Faculty of Digital Media and Design, and she is the associate director, along with me representing the library as the other associate director of the new studio. As I said, we are just wrapping up our startup grant and starting in on the implementation grant. So this is hopefully our second phase of Mellon-funded work on the project. With this grant, we're looking to establish an inquiry-driven and collaborative first workflow for scholarly communications, and our aim for doing this is to issue an annual problematic or theme for each project cycle. Through the project theme, we are looking to flatten counterproductive hierarchies and labor arrangements. We will bring together diverse teams of 6 to 7 members from faculty, librarians, developers, designers, graduate assistants, as well as partners from university presses. By having diverse teams, we're looking to disrupt and reconfigure divided workflows that have naturalized around the production of printed projects. So these teams will be brought together at the very early stages of the products. By bringing them in at the headwaters, how will that then change the ultimate outcome based on these inquiry prompts? Having voices at the table that aren't just the individual researcher, but also people traditionally on the build side of this equation, how will that affect the ultimate outcome of the projects? And lastly, we're looking to launch the programmatic and physical space within the UConn Library, and we're currently working on architects for the design of that space, having it be open to collaboration, but also have individual project rooms for the teams. We're looking at laboratory models within the sciences, labs that have microscopes and slides laid out for the team to use. We want to recreate that with the project rooms, having the information on the whiteboard, printouts, scans, other inspirational materials at the ready and set up within these project rooms. Guiding our work is a design process model. To create the design process model, we elicited feedback from a variety of stakeholders, from a project manager, from a scholar, from a designer, from a repository manager, from a developer and an MFA student. How do these project workflows for each of these stakeholders, how are they similar and how are they different? And by lining up the workflows and seeing where there were overlaps, we distilled the information into a single design process model. And what we found is that people were going through similar phases in their project work, but perhaps calling them different things. What the scholar might call researching, the developer might call an environmental scan, and the MFA student might call inspiration gathering, but they all fulfill a similar role within the project workflow. The 5 phases of the model start with the team and the inquiry prompt that I mentioned, this annual prompt that will bring together teams around. The first stage is the understanding phase. The team will gather and synthesize the information around them to determine the human talents within the team as well as the resources available to them. This will produce a creative brief. The creative brief will outline the aims of the project, taking into account who the audience might be and what are the constraints and limitations. The next phase is the gather phase. This is the gathering research phase, gathering inspiration, which will produce a functional spec. This will outline the media format of the project. This is when they're starting to narrow in on what could the possible format of this project be. It also outlines peer review and assessment, which will take place later in the design process model. And we've crafted this on a sine curve to capture that iterative process that you go through when you're working on a project. There's also this expanding and contracting throughout the different phases. Understanding and gathering, you're gathering more information. The project is getting bigger, but then it narrows in and focuses again with the functional spec and the creative brief. The next stage is the pivotal part of the project. It's the build phase. It's the phase when the iterative prototyping begins and the refining of the project takes place. We'll bring together the teams for sprint cycles to go through the project building phase. We'll gather them for a number of days at a time for immersive work, crafting the project. This will produce the media manuscript, and this could be a website, it could be a book, it could be a documentary film. It could take a number of different formats. Peer review takes place in the review phase, along with any revisions to the work. And then finally, there's the release phase, which is the dissemination of the ultimate project, along with the preservation of that project and the assessment. We have publications off to the side as another possible outcome of these projects. There may be white papers produced, there may be articles produced, there could be data sets that could be a byproduct of this larger project. How am I doing? 2 more minutes? Okay. As part of our work in gathering information for both the design process model and the physical space of the greenhouse studios, we did a series of 30 environmental surveys. The team went out to digital humanities centers around the country. We went out to maker spaces. We went out to industry. We talked to Google. We talked to design studios. We wanted to get a sense of how work was being done in these different places where we saw intersections with the greenhouse studios. We also talked to provincial partners. We talked to university presses that we will bring into the project workflow at UConn. Much like Brown, we don't have a university press at UConn, but by working with partners at Duke and UNC and MIT Press, we want to look at their digital project workflows and see how our own work can intersect with those of the projects. And lastly, I can touch quickly on our 3 initial projects. We are just now starting our work on the 3 initial projects. The first year, we'll have 3. Next year, we will solicit for our next round of cohorts, which will be 6 projects, which will start in 2018, and then the following year, another 9 projects in 2019. These project cycles could be 2 to 3 years, so the projects may overlap, and when we're operating at capacity, we'll be looking at about 18 projects running at any given time. The 3 projects we've started with are with Eric Rice, a professor in the music department at UConn, and he's looking to recreate the coronation mass of Charles V. He wants to encapsulate the sound and the experience of the music within the original architectural space. So by rendering this architectural space and reproducing a recording of the music, how do the reverberations of the music off the walls of an architectural space affect the audience's experiences of it? And next we have an art history professor looking at the work of Ellen Emmerich Rand. She is a 20th century American portrait artist, and there is a large collection of her work at UConn with a supporting collection in the archives of her account books and her journals and her sketchbooks. And this project will be both an exhibition at the Bent Museum on the UConn campus. It'll be a exhibition catalog as well as a touch table that captures some of the information from the archival collection. And finally, there is a project of Cuban art and culture. This website gathers together material culture, documents, art, sketches, all these different representations of Cuban culture. This project is both the furthest along and the one that we've done the least amount of work on, because there already is an existing website. So we're thinking about what is the next stage of this project. Will we enhance the website? Will we go in a completely different direction? Will we produce a printed book as a result of it? So that's the struggle with that project. And with that, I will wrap up and thank you for your attention. And for additional information, please contact me or Tom Scheinfeld or Claire Ciciglio. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. And I know you all might be thinking about lunch. We're joining a lively lunch, and we're at time, but we're also under no pressure to evacuate this room. So as long as there are questions or you'd like to hang around, I think we can stay, right? Are there any questions? Yes. Yeah. In purple there? I think your hand went up first.
So 3 of your projects used to like a star or started from grant, right? And I just want to ask about the plan of our system for the projects. It's a great project that I guess this will cost a lot of the resources too.
And I can touch a little bit on that. So for the sustainability of the actual initiative for the greenhouse studios, as I mentioned, we will be at capacity when we reach 18 projects. So when we get to the 3rd and 4th years of work, we will have 18 projects running at once. And it's at that point that we will reach sustainability. We figure each project will cost about $10,000 to run. And that's normally an amount of money that a faculty member or a participant can come up with through their institution or through their departments to bring to the project. We're also seeking additional sources of funding for these projects as well. So we're reaching out for other smaller grants, both on the UConn campus and beyond, because we are ultimately looking to move off of Mellon grant funding and move on to other resources. And the library has contributed staff positions to this, my position, as well as another developer position to the studio as well.
Similarly, I think at Illinois, we're thinking of the Mellon funding as startup money. And there is a commitment from the university. The university library sees developing and supporting publishing services as core to mission. And there is a commitment to sustain those. They're already contributing permanent staff, and have committed to growing capacity as need indicates, as demand indicates that we need it. And so we're hoping to see that. Liz, do you want to add anything? Got that?
Yeah, so Brown's, the funding that we received from Mellon at Brown is basically supporting staff, augmentation of the Center for Digital Scholarship staff with my position and the designer for online publications. The designer's position, the Mellon grant, is providing bridge funding, but the library is going to be absorbing that position. We've also, we are working with faculty members to receive additional outside grants and outside funding, and we have also received some additional funding from Brown, from the Office of Research, to support, more project costs of our faculty. So yeah, it's transitioning into being absorbed and part of the Library Center for Digital Scholarship.
You had a question too?
Yeah, we have trouble getting faculty to do non-traditional things because they're afraid that it won't look good on their tenure. So how are you getting faculty involved?
So that's one of the things that we're working on. Well, on the one hand, we're working with departments to ask the question, do you have language about digital scholarship and the acceptance of digital publications in your tenure and promotion materials? If not, like the university is saying that you should. And hopefully that will be one bridge that will be kind of crossed so that people feel more likely. The other, in terms of, some of the people we're talking to are kind of the usual suspects of people who already do digital things. Others, they aren't necessarily digital to begin with, but they're working on projects that actually cannot be a regular book for various reasons. They need to include multimedia, or they want to be able to enable certain kinds of functionality. We're also, I think, the speaker series that we've had, we're trying to get scholars and publishers and people who are experimenting to campus to share their work, so that it might become more familiar, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would say there's a multi-pronged approach, and one thing is just getting them excited about what they can do, that they may have had difficulty in working with other publishing partners, but also making sure that we tell our story clearly and that they're prepared to tell their story, that because it's published in a new venue doesn't mean it's not vetted or credentialed in some way. And that may differ from project to project, but it has to be clearly documented, and we need to equip our scholars with a story about how that credentialing happened. Another approach is that to reach out to tenured faculty initially, who are often ripe for this. They've been wanting to try something new, and that helps to build the prestige of the publications because tenured faculty have already published there, and also they feel less of a sense of risk at this point.
And that's also at Brown. We're targeting, initially, tenured senior faculty members.
And this is an issue we're trying to address with that inquiry prompt that we're issuing. I mean, that prompt will be focused on a particular problematic or a theme or a collection, but really what we're looking for with those applications is a willingness to collaborate and to participate. We're really looking for team members and collaborators rather than people with domain knowledge on the topic. So we're bringing together faculty who do have an open mind about this kind of work and being very upfront about what we're doing. Using the design thinking methodology is also enabling us to break down some of those barriers, as they do at places like the D School, bringing together people and encouraging thinking outside of the box, because it is a very different workflow and something that a number of faculty members won't be comfortable with, and that's fine. This initial cohort of projects, we're focusing on tenure track faculty, but in the future we hope to gather some of the junior faculty once we establish our initial track record of success with this first round of projects.
All right, I think we're being wrapped up. Okay, we'll be finding our way off the podium. Please find us if you have questions you didn't get a chance to express. Thank you again for coming, and enjoy the rest of the conference.